Hello, lovelies. Welcome to another episode. I am so excited for today's topic and guest. I speak with Carmela Bennett, a psychotherapist specializing in trauma, and we talk about somatic repair, which has two uses. One is to repair when you're either misaligned or arguing or having a fight or disagreeing with your partner and you just can't seem to get on the same page and you keep missing each other. And so the approach helps you tune back in, reconnect, realign so that you can get past the moment. And there's a repair moment in that it's healing, it gets you back on the same page, and it helps you feel more connected. There's repair in that, there's healing in that. And then, secondly, you don't necessarily need to be having a tough moment, but you could use this in other ways as practices to enrich your relationship. We give a lot of suggestions and different ideas for how to do that. So you can increase your connection, deepen your connection, create more meaningful interactions, and just deepen your intimacy all around with your partner. Stay tuned. You're in for a treat. Let me read you her bio and then we'll say hello to Carmela. Carmela Bennett has been a psychotherapist for the past 25 years and maintained a private practice for individuals, couples, and families in New York City since 2016. She has a doctorate in leadership, a master's in marriage and family counseling, somatic experiencing training, and holds a KSAC addiction specialist certification. She blends years of training and experience with holistic, somatic, experiential, and psychodynamic modalities and specializes in working with relationships, addictions, anxiety disorders, PTSD, and developmental trauma treatment using somatic experiencing. Her lifelong participation in the expressive arts, especially dance and movement, inspires integrating creativity, imagination, and intuition into all aspects of her life and work. Carmela also integrates her knowledge and experience in human development and potential to coach and consult internationally with executives, organizations, and universities seeking to build strategic leadership and create innovative and mindful solutions to global complex workplace initiatives. She considers our basic human need for connection and individual purpose a fundamental resource for meaningful change. Without further ado, let's say hello to Carmela. Hello, Carmela. How are you today?
I'm fine. Great, actually. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
So am I. This is a beautiful topic, and I love the information that you share with me when we first spoke. And so I think that the audience is going to really benefit from your insights and your wisdom and your practice. Like what we're going to offer today is going to be really beautiful. So I'm really looking forward to it. And we're going to be talking about somatic repair. And so what the heck is that? What is somatic repair? And who needs to use it and for what reasons?
So, somatic repair is a kind of that's an umbrella term in a way, right? And it incorporates a lot of concepts, but also actual practices, right? So, people who do embodied work, like if it's like a therapist or they have some kind of body work or somatic therapy, are involved in somatic repair, right? So, somatic repair can be like interpersonal, right? So we repair from the inside out, right? And that doesn't just take place in our head, right? And we kind of know this, and practitioners know it, right? We all know it, and even more and more clients, our patients sort of know it, right? But they also experience it. So framing it as, I think, somatic repair probably sounds a little bit different, but it's addressing things that have already been talked about and probably already practiced some. So what it means in terms of inner on the inside, right, is the healing that we are engaged in when we're really feeling into the intense emotions that can come up when we're healing from a trauma or even just working with anxiety or depression. So it's that inner work, and it's really connecting with the sensations and what's happening in the body, not just talking about the interpretation of it, the story of it, right? So that's the inner that we're talking about. And then interpersonal, when we're working with relationships, which is what you work with, right?
Yep.
We're really educating, number one, educating and also having our clients experience what's already actually happening between them, right? Because what happens in a relationship is so much about sensing, right? We focus on the words, and like as therapists, sometimes we focus on, oh, let's learn communication skills, super important. But even without the words, and when I ask this question to patients, they say, oh, of course. I say, well, you sense your partner, right? You know before they're going to say something, or you,
Very good.
right? Or you sense like when they say something, but they actually mean something else. Right?
Hmm.
You sense when they're hurt. You sense when they're angry. You're sensing all this stuff, right? Between your partner without the words.
Right.
So the repair, what we can help our clients work with in a session, right, is what are you sensing right here and now?
Mm.
Okay, what's in this space here that's kind of being sensed but not maybe expressed? And if it's hurt feelings or if it's anger, all these things like that we work with as therapists and as the patient, right? It's like, let's work with that. And let's work with like, hey, what is, and also there's a third party, right? What are we sensing as a
Right.
therapist, right?
Right.
Right? Because we are. And so we have the advantage of being that observer self that has a felt body. Like, okay, you're telling me you feel really great about this. I don't feel that at all.
Right. That's so interesting, Carmela. I love that you mentioned that you added that in there because I mean, we know we're using our own bodies in session, right? Like if we're if we're good therapists
Yeah.
and we could sense and know and read with our own bodies. It's not just the words that the clients are saying, but we're using all of ourselves in the interactions. So sometimes it looks like we're just hanging out in therapy, but we're doing so much more than just chatting, right? And very, very, very interesting that you mentioned that. So our bodies are informing us too of what's happening in the session and between the partners. So good.
Yeah. So as we know, as therapists who work with couples, right, that repair also happens between the therapist and client. I
Right.
mean, that's part of the process.
Right.
So when someone can identify and tolerate what's happening, I'm so angry at you
Mm.
for saying that, or I'm so sad, or I feel so ashamed, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And as a therapist, we can actually, that's here and now.
Mhm.
And there's a felt sense of every emotion. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the repair is we can feel it, and then we can actually, it's a beautiful thing actually when I have a couple turn towards each other or like, hey, feel into the space between you.
Mm.
What do you feel in this space? And some in the beginning they'll say like, I don't know what you mean. Like,
Right.
like what's this space? But it makes sense really quickly. Yeah.
Yes, yes, very good. So I love how you're defining this and you also are describing it and you also are giving examples. So somatic means in the body, right? And the sensing and it's in what we're experiencing and repair. So we're not just talking with words or apologizing or just giving lip service. We are using our bodies and moving the feelings and expressing the feelings and using the feelings. So all of that is being brought to the space and to the now moment so it could be used to deepen the connection, right?
Mhm.
That's part of the definition? Do you want to say more about that?
Yeah. So we're sensory beings, right? We're
Mhm.
wired to sense even before we can speak,
Hmm.
right? So as
Yeah.
infants, right, we have no language, but we all, right? Just because we're sensing, right? We can see sort of, right? But the when what we're sensing into opposite or with or even behind, like we can sense, we don't have to see the person, right? What we're sensing is what's very real. Like, and that's the relationship, right? I'm sad and hurt. You're turning away from me, or I sense that you're turning away from me. Maybe you're not physically doing it, right? But you've actually done it.
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
People, they disconnect. And so we're wired to seek the connection. And the disconnection, which is what we're working with with couples who are in therapy, is hey, how does that happen? What happens within the person, which is also then creating the relationship, right? In the moment, over and over and over and over, right? And so drawing attention to, hey, as I'm listening, as like a partner's listening, what's coming up in you on the sensory level? That's like I feel. But somebody might say, "Oh, I hear your words. Like I hear that you really didn't like it that I said that."
Mhm.
What I really feel is a deep sadness.
Mm.
It's just very different.
Oh my gosh, is it different? And it's interesting when partners say, I feel that you suck. That's not a feeling, right?
I'm
And,
like,
but I love the way that you frame it, you positioned it the other way, right? I hear the things that you're saying, and this is what I'm feeling. Ah, so good. That's just completely whole different world in terms of an interaction between partners.
because that's oftentimes that most of the time, I guess, maybe I'll say oftentimes, right?
Mhm.
Unknown to the person who's sensing it and also the person that's receiving it,
Mm,
right? So there's all this stuff going on under there. Right? All
right.
the scatter's going on under there. And all this stuff is going on under here. And that's what, if people or therapists are familiar with emotionally EFS,
Hmm.
right? That's a lot of what is getting tapped into, right? What's the emotion that's coming up? Not just, hey, let's do communication skills practice.
Right.
So the attachment, right? We can really work with the attachment if there's an attachment wound, which a lot of times there is, you know, or how do we repair that? Like, so couples have the opportunity to help repair, their partner's attachment wound if they're, wounding. And oftentimes by the time they come to us, it's actually damaging,
Hmm.
right? It's been tweaking it, it's been triggering it more and more each one.
Right.
So those attachment wounds have kind of gotten like, the scabs have been picked.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. And so the opportunity is to help people become aware of that on a sensory level. I'm so distraught and I'm telling you, you suck. And I'm so angry at you because I'm so hurt. And I feel disconnected from you. And all I want is to be connected.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's so beautiful once they learn to get in touch with that and speak that way, right? Which is so far from when they first come in. And and sometimes it takes even a while, right? Because just the noise is so inviting and so enticing. The blaming, the pointing fingers, the criticism, the control, like all the things that we do, right? And the partners do. And once people start being more vulnerable, like you're suggesting, and they're inviting that vulnerability from their partner and that authenticity and that deeper share, right? Like everything just calms down. It's like the nervous system's like, oh, I'm okay,
Yeah.
right? Like you're not coming after me,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So
And
good.
well, we kind of know as therapists, right, that even tolerating connection can be
Mm,
really difficult, right?
yes,
Especially if there's an attachment wound, right? Or, trauma or whatever, even tolerating that,
that's right.
very difficult. So like we help them manage it in the moment in the session. Just feel that. What do you notice? Like feel that. And so people get partners the opportunity to experience it. That's what connection feels like.
Yes. Wow. This is so lovely to put words to the work like this, right? Into so for the audience and those who are in couples therapy, they could identify what's going on in our minds, right? And as we're observing it and as we're guiding it, uh, the possibilities that are there. if they allow themselves to just show up in the moment and kind of put the weapons down,
Yeah.
and it's much easier than to get to this deeper level that everybody's seeking. This is what they're coming in for, right? And sometimes they think that by shoving their information at their partner's throat that they're going to get this. That's going to do just the opposite, right? So
Yeah.
good.
It's a really good point. Like often the intentions don't match the outcome.
Right.
Here's what I really meant, and I can't believe you took it that way.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes, very good. So,
Mhm.
Carmela, what would you say are the benefits and the importance of this kind of work? Like, what does it mean to repair this deeper level and the overall benefits of this for the relationship and for the connection?
Well, I think I spoke to it a bit, right? That there's the opportunity at the individual level, right? For individuals that's showing up in the relationship, right? So we can work both. We're working at both,
Hmm.
right? And so we're kind of familiar with. In fact, I did with a client this morning, right? That the chart of the relationship. There's you, there's me, and then there's us,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And then
The
there's
Venn diagram. Yep.
right, there's the us in the middle.
Yes.
So what's the sense of like that's an actual visual? There's space there. What's the space feel like? What's it feel like to be when we're in that space? And there's lots
Mm,
of things, right? It's not just one thing, right? But I guess the real beauty of it is to get underneath the words and and for people to sense the connection. Oh, I just felt you disconnect from me.
mm.
Didn't? Oh, right? You know,
Yeah,
because people can say it, but when we have guide, you know, each partner to like share with your partner what the feeling of that is.
hmm,
That's real. You can't really argue it the way that some couples will.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So the benefits are myriad, right? There's the opportunity for people to learn a different language, actually, to learn a different language between
Mm,
their partner, to have a different sensory experience, um, individually and together, and to not rely on so much language. There's a therapist out there. I really respect his work. Stephen Stosny. I don't know if you ever
mm,
heard of him.
mm-mm.
He does a lot of work with uh, trauma, but also highly reactive couples, and and he has a book actually, How to Heal Your Marriage Without Talking About It.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Or how to whatever something your marriage, fix your marriage without talking about it, right?
Right.
Um, we know from not just him talking to it, but that gender is different. There's lots of differences in the way that women are kind of tuned into a relationship and men are tuned into it,
Hmm.
right? So another benefit is that like the opposite partner gets a sense of like, oh, right, here's what's different. Men are somewhat more likely to um, distance, perhaps. Again, I'm not generalizing, but they've learned into defending, armoring up, and they're not aware of it. Their partner is. I can't even reach you.
That's right.
What are you talking about? I'm sitting right here, right? But I can see, right, and vice versa, right? From the other can be like, this is too much. Oh my
Yes,
gosh, this is like, I could feel so much coming from you. It's too much.
that's right.
Yeah.
And I think that potentially that's part of the reason why they armor up or shut down or distance because they're not used to that much feelings, and so they get flooded. And if the woman or the more feminine partner doesn't have a good boundary around containing emotions or expressing them appropriately, so they're not like beating on their partner with it, right? And so doing a tsunami on them with their feelings, then they can't tolerate it. So of course they're gonna kind of be like, right, or kind of shut down, withdraw, distance, look away, however they do it in the moment. They might even actually leave the room, right? If it's too much, like if they're not in therapy. Actually, even if they're in therapy when you're in Zoom, they might still do that. So very interesting for sure, for sure. Okay, so then what we're saying is that the benefit of this kind of work, of the sensing and the getting in touch with the feelings and this vulnerability and sharing it and sensing what's in the space and discussing it or bringing it forward and bringing light to all this stuff is to deepen the connection. That's kind of like the goal, the idea, to repair the connection when people are feeling disconnected, to bring that connection back online,
Mm-hmm.
to repair that bond, that kind of like they put a knife to it if they've been doing funny business, right? So they kind of bring it back together.
Yeah. And what's the phrase? Words are cheap, right?
Hmm.
And words are, I'm being flippant, right? But it's again, I said it before, but we're just censoring, like we're just constantly sensing. Like, are you with me or are you not?
Right.
Right. And so to be able, and so for people, again, for people individually to like, oh, have a better understanding of this is what's going on with me, and I'm not even aware of it. Right. I'm not even aware that I'm sending that out.
Hmm. Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
But they can get feedback. Right. So the opportunity for feedback it's expanded. There's different feedback that you can get from a therapist, different feedback that you can get from, your partner.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
It's interesting because usually the partners are more concerned about what they're getting from their partner, right? I can't feel you. Where are you? Or you're giving me too much. But they're not paying attention to what they're doing. If they're shutting down, withdrawing, or not giving, or what are they giving, right? So it's very easy to focus on the other as opposed to what we're doing.
Yes. And so there's that's the beautiful art of it, right? As therapists, we're working with these two nervous systems in our own at the same time.
Yeah. And that's why a lot of therapists who don't work with couples find couples therapy very challenging because that's a lot. We do a lot of work.
It's a lot. You do, like, isn't that's primarily what you do, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I give you a lot of credit because it's challenging. It's beautiful stuff and
It is.
satisfying, but it is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess as I say that, I'm guessing that you probably do some of this intuitively anyway.
Totally, for sure. So I have some knowledge of these things from my own trainings and different things, obviously, but definitely just the sense, the self of the therapist, and just using my intuition in my body, my sensing, just all my gifts, if you may. So maybe not so in a structure, like not this specific therapy with this particular structure, but definitely is part of the dynamics of what's going on, right? And just tuning in and helping them regulate themselves by using my own self-regulation,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So yeah, all the things, of course.
As it's happening in the session, then if we're the repair, right, it can be a moment, right? It could be 10 minutes, right?
Right.
Of whatever's happening with a couple. But even if it's like a moment, then they've experienced something new.
For sure. It's so gorgeous too. Like in however, I mean, right now we're using the sensing part, but any repair has that feeling to it, right? But then like this deeper piece that we're offering today. And so any repair feels like
Yeah.
right. And we add these layers, even like even a deeper peace and calm and like knowing and connection. So that's just definitely part of the goal of offering and to experience. Okay, so then that whole piece was so beautiful, and I really appreciate all the information that you've shared so far. Like, the opportunity that partners have to go to this deeper experience with their partner if they want to, whether they're in therapy or not.
Mhm.
It's just so gorgeous. They could deepen their connection for everybody who's so hungry for connection and to deepen that connection with their partner and to feel like they know each other at a deeper level. So this is one of the ways, and to really build that connection in the moment and just feel just better in that attachment, right? So all that good stuff. And so if people wanted to do this by themselves with their partner, what might they how might they set this up for themselves? Like outside of therapy session, or if they're not in therapy, like I was saying, how might they give this a try if they want to get these benefits for themselves?
So what I would suggest is um to do some of individual and something together, right? So there's so much out there now on like guided meditation that actually has helps people tap into their body.
Yes.
Right? There's like you can find that all over the place. Like, oh, just a 5 minute feel into yourself, feel into right. So people can get a little more skilled. And so
Perfect.
anything that like is guiding them to like feel themselves, what's
Right.
going on. It's like,
Yep. Okay, very good.
yeah. And then you get a little bit, and they can do that together. Sometimes people do meditation together.
Yes.
That'd be a nice thing, right? What was that like for
Totally.
you? Was it like for you? Right? I don't know. I didn't feel anything, or I felt this, right? This is really, but whatever it is, it's like, um, they're sharing it. They're sharing the experience.
Yes. So beautiful.
And then as together with their partner, there's some simple stuff that may not be easy. It's fairly simple, but may not be easy,
Right.
right? But even something like get grounded, so they've done a little bit of grounding, like feeling solid, and then facing your partner and just gazing into your partner's eyes, and then notice what happens,
Mm.
right? And so you can like that is like again, it's simple but not always easy. Oh, what starts to come up? Oh, I want to look away, right? Or like, oh, oh my, your eyes look so tender, or you look sad, or you look whatever, right? So eye gaze is a really simple practice that people, I think, couples therapists do anyway, right?
Mhm.
It's sort of helping people pay attention to something else. In other words, pay attention to what's coming up. Like as I look into your eyes, oh my gosh, I feel so warm. I can feel this love coming from you, or I feel cold, or I feel a distance, right? Whatever, like your eyes are cold or whatever, right?
Hmm.
But if people practice that, I've had people do that and practice it, and they actually get better at it, right?
Sure.
Like, and it becomes like a real connected moment,
Mm.
a real moment of connection, So that's one. That's a simple one. The other is if I another one that's fairly simple and not so threatening is to have people go back to back, like sit back to back, so they're like feeling into their partner,
Mm.
right? What do you feel? Anything.
Right.
Oh, it feels like a brick wall, like a brick wall, right?
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, I really sense you there for me, right?
That's really beautiful.
Right? Sense. So if the goal was, I want to sense connection from you, right? Oh, could you soften a little bit? Could you soften it? And then, oh, that feels so great,
Oh,
you know?
yes, I love it.
Yeah. And
Very
so
pretty.
people, and it's kind of eye-opening for people to understand that, oh, wasn't that hard?
Hmm.
Right? It wasn't as threatening. It wasn't as I thought it was going to be. Just all kinds of little things that to work with, giving and receiving, right? So that's also what we're working with, giving, receiving.
Yes.
How you receive what I'm offering you, and we receive it on a sensory level.
Beautiful. Yes. It's so interesting because these exercises work when partners are not fighting. when they're fighting or they're not in good terms, it's not going to be as easy, right? Because I mean, I hear it when where people are chatting, like I see hatred coming at me. So, right. And so it's going to be hard to receive that hatred. I mean, of course, it would help also soothe the whole thing, right? But it would take a lot more guts to be able to go into this vulnerable place when they're fighting or when they're angry or when they're hurt. Any thoughts about that? Do you agree? What do you think? Or what can we offer about that?
That's the reason to do it, right? We do it because it's hard, because it's but that's the value of doing it when you're not fighting,
Right.
right? You do it when you're not fighting, and then when you're fighting. But at the same time, I think there's the opportunity if a therapist is present and a therapist can facilitate that, right?
Sure.
So I just saw you like really stiffen up, like if you just let yourself like feeling your feet, feel it, right, and then soften your eyes, and can you hear what's being said? So we're offering the chance to the opportunity to interrupt that, right? So we're interrupting, that's building a new pattern, right? So when we interrupt like that conflict in a sensory way, it's like because we want to bring it down a little bit, right?
Yep.
We're not trying to eliminate it necessarily. Like, okay, don't ever fight.
Right.
But how do you fight and stay connected at the same time?
That's right. How do you disagree? You don't necessarily even need to fight, right? So how can you have disagreements without them escalating and without disrupting the connection? Right. Of course. Um, I love how you said all of that. So of course they want to first practice and play with this when they're in good terms and to add to their connection moments, into the connection habits. I use those terms in our work. And they could just enrich their practices with things like this. And we're going to talk more about that as we go. I think that's one of the last things that we're going to touch on, so we could deepen this even further. But then if they practice that and if they exercise that muscle, they have it more accessible when they are in conflict, when they are arguing, when they are disagreeing, when they are fighting. They could ask each other or invite each other to come into this place if they're not in a therapy room, to come to this place and, okay, can we do this sensory thing so that we could calm this thing down and get on the same page and repair and regroup and reconnect. So good. So it could be used as an enrichment activity, but also as a repair activity, because in that repair, there's healing, right? So that's kind of also the bottom line.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I say it this way, like we're going to do anger differently, right? You still be angry. We're going to do it differently. Can you do
Right.
it differently? Can you be angry and stay connected, even right here and now? Because, hey, people are angry about things. So
Right.
you cheated on me, or you did this to me, or you did it right. And so we're there for that. As therapists, we have to be there for that. We're not trying to like just do all the good stuff. But
Right.
right. But then
Mhm.
there's like, can those feelings are very intense, right? The what's coming towards you is pretty intense. Can you stay in yourself, right? Um, but also can you stay connected in conflict? How do you stay connected in conflict?
Right. Right. Which I would assume that I don't know that people haven't necessarily expressed this with language, but I would assume that people believe that they can't stay connected if they're angry at each other, right? That's part of the underlying thing that they bring to a situation. Like, I can't be nice to you if you're being mean to me, right? Like, like I'm angry, I'm not going to be nice to you. They're different things, right? And so then I'm going to reinforce you being mean to me if I'm nice back to you. Like, weird things that people come up with logic and all ego and patterns. I love that you brought up the patterns to this. Absolutely, we want to change those patterns, right? If we learn how to sit in anger, we could feel and honor all of our feelings. No, feelings are not good or bad. There are feelings that they bring information, and if we're able to sit with them and we use it, right, and then we use all of the feelings, and then with that, if we could hang in there and then we could still address the situation or whatever it is, bonus.
Yeah. Yeah. But and we can even use I guess what I is also possible, which is like so informative and so illuminating sometimes to couples, right? Like using posture, right? What do you sense when your partner's like this,
Right. Mm,
right? You're not going to get in, right? I can't get in. I can't get in.
right.
So, or you can use posture. You can like, okay, turn away from each other. Where's the
Mhm.
connection? There is none. So what's your goal here?
Right.
You can stay that way, right?
Mhm.
So there's another way that we can use people like to actually sense in the moment. Here's what you're actually doing.
Mm. Right. Using the body language appropriately to enrich that connection and to promote that connection.
Yeah. Well, to
Very
give
nice.
people an understanding that they feel instead of us telling them.
Lovely. So what about touch and using the space in between them? Like how can they bring that to that practice? Like anything to offer about that? As long as it feels safe, and how do we create the safety and how do we bring that into that moment to help make it even better?
We had a therapist to it.
There's no therapist. This is for the audience, for them to do it by themselves. So if they are sitting together and they're like, oh, let's play with this concept, or oh honey, I learned something, let me show you this. And they are practicing, they're playing with this idea, and they're deepening their connection, or they're learning how to use sensory repair or somatic repair better. And now maybe they want to take it to the next level and they want to add a little bit of touch if it feels safe. So how do we create safety around that to add touch and to learn more about how to use this space between them?
Yeah. So I think your word safety is important,
Mhm.
right? So ask permission, especially if there's been a lot of conflict, things
Yes.
don't feel safe. They may have to, and I think the other keywords are to slow down,
Mm.
go slow, right?
Yes.
Because as we kind of know from experience, like even like when somebody runs up to you and hugs you, like, right? Right? It
Right.
can be a little bit much. So go slow, right?
Mhm.
Gottman, he famously said was like a long time ago, like just touch your partner on their shoulder as you're
Mhm.
talking to them, right? As you're speaking, like using touch, right? And so there's another connection there. And we sense it, our system senses it and processes it at the same, in a different way than just if I hear you talking. Right?
Mhm.
So it could be something like we're watching TV, right? Watching TV and like, hey, if you just instead of sitting opposite each other, right? Or just, sit next to each other and like just sense what you sense and what naturally wants to happen will then happen. Right. Oh,
Mhm.
I'm sitting close to you. I want to put my arm on my hand on your shoulder or a hand on your knee or whatever, something small. So it can be something small like that.
Right.
Or it can be feeling more like what I talked about earlier, or like putting your hands like palms together, like palm, and like just feeling into like, hey,
Mhm.
what's this distance, right? What distance feels good? Oh, this feels good.
I love that. Yes. So the other one was more organic, like just being together in regular life, right? Just kind of being in the space together. Or even as they're practicing some of these skills, as opposed to sitting on opposite sides of the couch, just coming a little closer. Lovely. And what you just offered then as a more intentional practice, oh, let's play with the space between us. How much closeness or distance feels right in the using the hands, like touching the hands, opposite hands to each other, and kind of gauging the space. So pretty. I love that because I mean you could feel the boundaries, right? You could feel the space, you could feel the energy, you could feel all kinds of things. And
Mhm.
you know, like, okay, this is too close, this is too far, right? And so like that you find that middle ground that feels good to both of us.
Mhm. Yeah.
So good. And one person might feel better with the hands closer to their own chest, and the other person might feel better with their hands closer to the other person's chest also. or maybe they move back and forth, whatever. But yes, what a beautiful way of gauging that, and then maybe adding words to it too, or defining or expressing or sharing what it feels like, or like what else would you do with that?
Yeah. So again, it's like getting just the sensory experience, like, oh, this feels really good. This feels really nice. Right.
Just feeling it.
And I think you had said earlier, people who, when working with sexual issues, right? So people who've either been estranged for a long time, they've been alienated and they're
Mm,
haven't been sexual, or there's been an issue, right? So again, sort of like to go slow, right? To kind of
yes.
use touch in a very slow way. And it can be something like starting with like a very safe massage or something like that. That's actually getting people connected on a sensory level without, let's sit and talk about it,
Right.
which is just a different experience, right?
Right. Which could be very awkward. People have a hard time talking about sex things, but then easing into being intimate by
Yeah.
being with each other, they might not necessarily need the words, but just creating that physical safety and that sensory experience of that felt experience of being together without being all intimate and all naked and all of the things too quick, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of ease into like, oh, this is safe, right? Just kind of teaching the body and the nervous system, and it's okay to, this feels okay, and maybe what's the next thing that feels okay, and just keep progressing slowly.
Yeah. And so we're also teaching on the individual level, how do you create a presence that feels safe?
Mm.
Oh, you feel safe. I can come towards you, right?
Wow, can you say more about that? That's beautiful.
Well, because our presence is everything, right? We're sense like we've been saying, like do I sense that you're safe, right? And it just could like open or loving, caring, right? It's very hard to be sexually intimate if you sense your partner's not being safe.
Right.
That can come from both sides, right? So somebody who has trauma in their background can like be things don't feel safe ever, or
Right.
feel safe, right? And
Right.
so for their partner to create a presence that feels safe,
Mm.
that's repair. That's also a way to repair, right? Because you're giving your partner an experience of a safe connection that they may never have had, right? And so on the individual level, the more we create that like sense of like, oh, I'm here for you, I'm safe, you can come in,
Mhm.
right? Then somebody who has a traumatized nervous system can maybe take a chance.
Right. Yeah, if I have a traumatized nervous system or a history of trauma, and I am looking for connection, or I might not even be looking for connection if I'm very traumatized, but my partner wants connection or intimacy, and they're coming. Right. So how do they come so that I could receive? If I'm traumatized, it's going to be very hard for me to receive or to open up and to let in. Right. So then the partner who's coming, they need to show up with that warmth and that sense of safety, as opposed to like, come on, right? That's not gonna. I mean, that's in the practical what it might look like, and so gentle, right, and warm and tender and loving and caring and accepting and all of the beautiful, safe ways, nurturing, so that the traumatized nervous system could be at ease and receive more easy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And in that in those situations, a lot of times less is more, right?
yeah, totally. Just go easy, right?
Yeah. I'm here and next time I'm here and maybe we do something else or but yeah. So it's the interplay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And for the person who is traumatized, who's looking for that connection regardless, who are taking the risk, right? Who are being courageous and who are approaching their partner, for the receiving partner to know that they're taking a risk and to continue to create that safety. And if the partner who's traumatized is approaching their partner and their partner's not, they're not getting it, right? That they could guide them or show them. I don't know if you agree with this. And like they could request what might that look like so they feel safe? What do you think about that?
Well, I think what you just said is really important, right? That you ask, they make a request,
Yeah.
they establish the boundaries. The boundaries feel safe. So it's that you giving and receiving. Is it okay if I do this? Right? I'll just
Right.
go slow. So it builds trust. You're building trust. So going slow is super important. Asking permission is vitally important, right? And then stopping if it's too much. Like so there's because somebody, and we know this too, traumatized people who have trauma, right? Sometimes their boundaries are very porous, right? They have none,
Mm,
right?
right.
They let too much in, right? And then but then they feel overwhelmed, right? Or
Right.
right?
Right.
Right. And so it's always a parallel process of like building up like an inner boundary for the person who's had trauma. If somebody has trauma, I guess I want to say too that it's really important for that person to be getting work, their individual work. A lot of times,
Totally.
yeah. I think couples work without that is
It's harder.
yeah, but it's also a little. It's just like can not be it's safe, right? You're not. There's a lot of work, individual work.
Right.
They're really going to need to get sturdy about what they're asking for
Mhm.
when they say that's too much. So they're going to be informing their partner. Here's what I need. Here's why, right? And are you willing to do that? Because you got to get buy-in from the other partner, right? Because without buy-in, you just say, well, I'm just going to try this thing. I learned it, right? And the other person is clueless. Yeah, there's more chance that it may disconnect because there hasn't been any agreement,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
So I'd like to try. Here's what I learned. Would you be willing to do that?
Right.
Okay, yeah, I could do that. Could you just be like sort of present for me, whatever it is? So the person who's more aware, you're gonna have to ask. They're gonna have to be aware enough to ask. And if they're getting a no from the person or like, I don't know, they they may have to say, well, I'm not sure if this is gonna work.
Well, so I would like to offer that. And the reason why I'm going here is because with clients who are either single or who dating or with partners who are really not into self-help, personal awareness, personal development, couples therapy, like none of this, therapy for themselves, right? So it doesn't mean that the relationship is doomed. It doesn't mean that you can't be intimate, right? But okay, so then what, right? So then what I would like to offer those people is not to feel hopeless, like, okay, oh shoot, my partner's not interested at all. It's not safe for me ever. What do I forget it then? Right? Like I would hate for that to be the takeaway.
Oh,
So I think that what we're saying is that they would have to kind of show their partner what they're looking for, see if they're willing to try it. And it doesn't have to be so clinical. The partner might not receive clinical, right? So it could be very simple and very layman's terms, simple as something like, oh, can we just make love very slowly today?
exactly.
Right. And if I get like all weirdo on you, just give me a chance to regroup, or maybe we could pause. Would that be okay? Like very simple stuff. It doesn't have to be like, I'm traumatized and therefore blah 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 blah. Right. It doesn't have to be intense. It doesn't have to be scary for the other partner. The other partner who's not interested, they can't receive that kind of stuff. And partners then have a hard time getting their needs met because they can't ask.
Right.
Right. And so I want the audience to know that if that's you, that you can't ask in a way that your partner can't give to you.
I think what you just said is beautiful. Can we just go slow? And if somebody doesn't, is not going to doesn't want to reveal the trauma, or I don't know. There's many
Right.
different,
That happens too, right?
right, different scenarios that we could be talking about here. But
Mhm.
being able to take care of yourself, right? So our responsibility is to take care of ourselves,
Yes.
right? And then we can ask for what we need. And no, it's not hopeless at all because it's very empowering to be able to do that.
Right. What might be some things that the partner in that position might want to ask for the partner who's seemingly resistant, not into self-development, not aware, not in couples therapy, not in their own therapy, like the most densest of person. Let's make the worst case scenario here, just so that we know that is could still work, right? Um, what might be some things that, I mean, are you ready to give kind of an example? Anything else that you want to add to that? Like what might those requests look like?
So are you talking about somebody who's really working with the trauma or just anybody?
I would say that most people have trauma, but but maybe some more than others, right? So regardless of the level of trauma, so somebody who's feeling like I need to go a little easy and I want to reconnect with my partner, and how do I do it in a way that serves me? And my partner's a little resistant. What's the best way to approach their partner?
Well, I think you touched into it. We sort of have touched into it. Some of it can be like just like a touch. You can sense into your partner. Like you can sense, hey, are you receptive? Is this person receptive right now? Being aware of timing. You know,
Timing, yes.
right? So if somebody's coming home and they're just really stressed out or whatever, it's good. Probably maybe it's not the great best time, right?
Really?
Right. Or, again, I get it's there's like some awareness that has to happen on the part of the person who's kind of making the overture,
Yes.
right? And if they kind of are aware that this other person may not be receptive, it's super important for them to just be able to step back. Okay. All right. Maybe next time. Or okay, then let's just snuggle, right? Or whatever it is. It doesn't and so the awareness on you're talking about somebody who's really kind of more aware than a partner, I think,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
happens a lot.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Right? Is to kind of like, hey, how do I make her what am I asking for? And how do I take care of myself at the same time? Right.
Mhm.
So it doesn't have to be, you're right. It doesn't have to be, well, I've had trauma in my background, so like blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But it's making a simple request, you know? Hey, can we just that happens all the time, right? Can we just like snuggle tonight?
Mhm.
Right? That feels great. Or can you give me a little back massage? Oh my gosh, that feels so good. You
Right.
know?
The simple things, right?
Yeah. I think again it goes back to going slow because there's where awareness can happen. If people are speeding through it, it's like, whoa, you're gonna lose connection with like what's going on with me.
Mm, right. What a good observation. Yes, for those people who are anxious and who just want to go through the motions of things and just checklist things, right? And we do for sex. Let's make sex happen. Or however people approach their lives and their intimacy. It's okay to first be in your body, to have the awareness, to sense into the space between you, to sense into your partner. Does your partner feel open? Does your partner feel receptive? Does your partner feel available? And if they don't, is this the right timing? Or can you check to see if they will become available? Like all just basic things, right? Not like just and then everything crashes.
Yeah, and then because it'll people you'll know on the other end of it, right? How was that like? Did that feel good? Not really. They may not say it, but
Right. So first of all, I mean, people might reject the attention and the affection as at the first layer, right? So your partner might be not available, period. And then as you start getting more intimate, that it might just feel very mechanical or not in alignment or just not warm or right. So if you're not connected and if you're not in a good place, right? In those situations, don't serve anybody, right? It creates further rapture and further what's the word? Re-traumatizing situations. And so definitely use your judgment when you're approaching.
well, I think you're speaking to another point. The other point is that a lot of these moments happen like outside the bedroom, right? They happen in everyday life. And like
Yes.
building in like those small moments. And that's what I like that the Gottmans talk about, like they happen, building those patterns, right?
Mm.
And then so it isn't just all or nothing. Like, wow, we just been here and now we're like, okay, it's gonna, right? And but and I'm sort of speaking in the context of people who are maybe exploring or wanting to build a relationship,
But
not
yes.
not like just hooking up,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So like wanting to build a relationship, and then there's that like kind of going slow and building in a pattern of connection, touch here and there. Um, words touch us too, right? We can touch each other with words,
Mm.
oh, gosh, you look so pretty, or you look whatever, or whatever it is. Um, or that was so nice that you did this thing for me, or what a great
Mhm.
dinner, or I really
Right.
felt touched that you made dinner, took me out to dinner, and went, made an effort, something, anything like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we're using all different kinds of sensory modalities, right, to build connection.
Very good point, because sometimes when we start talking about sex, we automatically go to the intimate moment. We forget all of this stuff that happens before the actual physical moment, intimate moments, right? There's physical intimacy way before that, and all the kinds of intimacy and connection that happens before you get to the bed, air quotes, right? Before you get to the doing it. And so yeah, everything that leads up, you're building that connection, you're building the safety, you're building all this stuff that's needed there. So then when you want to be physically intimate, the chances of it being good for both of you is much increased.
Mhm. Yeah, like what's that phrase? Like something is some of the best foreplay, right? Is mental, right?
That's right. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's right. And yeah, they also say that the biggest sex organ is the brain, or the most important sex organ is the brain, right?
Yeah.
Because like it all happens in our head. I actually say a lot that our relationship happens in our head.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
we interpret everything, how we experience everything, how we process it, what meaning we give it, right? And so then it translates in how we're experiencing. Is
Yeah.
that fair to say?
There's always, yes, there's always that. And like big sort of making sure that the story is actually connected to your felt experience is like what we're talking about, because they can be different.
Totally. But so right, exactly. So I use it to explain like you're making up all this stuff in your head, right? As opposed to actually feeling it and working it and being in it. Right.
Yes.
And so that when people struggle, it's all the limiting beliefs and all the meaning systems and the disconnection and all that stuff that's happening and not being aligned and attuned, right?
Right.
And it's all all this noise,
Yeah.
and it's a bad relationship up there.
That. There's a great bad relationship up there, and those stories, but those are all defense strategies, right? This is what I say about you or me as a like as a way to defend myself, right,
Right.
against you. And I think that's the
Protective mechanism.
sure, yeah.
Mhm.
So here's what I'm telling myself, because that's how I'm going to keep myself safe, or I'm going to keep you away, or I'm going to
Right.
do whatever. But there's where the like connecting that to what's actually happening makes it like more substantial, or
Totally.
how they're not in alignment, what you're telling yourself, this person is safe, and then your body's like, no.
Excellent. Right. Exactly.
So people who are not sometimes get into relationships that aren't working well, right?
Mhm.
And overridden, they're overriding what's happening. No,
Yes.
this is okay. This is okay.
Right.
The story is like what they're telling themselves that may not be the reality.
Right. They disconnected their body and their sensing and all everything that they're experiencing is disconnected from how they're analyzing it. And they're giving themselves some messages that is not in alignment with the full body experience, with the whole self experience. They're not for nothing, they're rubbing heads or they're butting heads or whatever.
Yeah. And
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah. There's,
Lovely.
well, the word, there's the story, right? And we're more likely to tell a story that fits with our own, right? Our own perception or
Right.
experience.
Hmm. With our own patterns of how we have experienced the world so far, and we make everything fit that pattern the blueprint that we already have, and we find the data that validates what we are supposedly already know, as opposed we miss all the other good stuff, as opposed to seeing everything else also.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like we're sort of like talking, I think, today about like relationships that are kind of within some type of norm, right? They're not abusive,
Right, right, right.
right? And yeah, so I think that's
Yes,
important.
thank you for highlighting that. Absolutely, that's right. So we're not talking about relationships who are awesome because you do all this more intuitively,
Right.
and we're not talking about relationships who are like dangerous and abusive. We're talking about relationships who are like regular everyday relationships where the partners are struggling a little bit, or who are struggling maybe a lot.
Yeah.
That's probably more the case. And so they're just not in sync. They're just not tuning into themselves, into their bodies, into the other. Like everything's just out of sync. And then
Yeah.
that's where all the conflicts are happening, right? And all the struggles are coming from. What about as a kind of like a closing sentiment? If people were to say, you know what, I'm going to invest in my relationship. Turning point, I'm all in. Let's see if we could turn this baby around, or let's make this baby better. So, what might be some, and again, people are not in therapy, assuming that they're not in therapy, or even if they are in therapy, they could bring this to the therapy session as well. But assuming that they want to play with this on their own, what might be some practices that they might want to bring into their lifestyle to make some of these things happen? What would be some exercises or some things that they could try to deepen their connection? And also, if they are in therapy, you could still try it. It's not going to harm your therapy if you add this to your repertoire. You could bring it to your therapist if you're not already doing stuff like this, or you could still practice it on your own, even if you're in couples therapy.
So I think we touched on a lot of them today already, in terms of becoming more aware of your own experience. And one way to do that is slowing down. How do you slow down? What do you become aware of? So there's all kinds of mind body practices out there, right? You start with yourself, you
Very
know,
good.
start
Yes.
with yourself, and you're like, here's what I'm more aware of, right? I'm more in tune with me. And then you build from there, right? So if your partner wants to come and do it with you, that's fantastic. Before I thought about this earlier, and I want to say it. Another super, I think, what's super important is the power of play, right?
Yes.
For couples to play together.
Hmm.
There's a whole like experience of that. Like, how do we play together? Like experimenting with like, let's getting playful, and that's bringing out this other part. And there's a whole like opening that happens when we play, right? So, what are you doing to play together? You know, are you, take take some dance lessons, or just go take a bike ride or something, get out in nature and really like put your phone away, right?
Yep.
Yep. So being playful together is just
Mhm.
huge. There's a whole somatic side to that, right? Having fun, right?
What
It
a
doesn't
concept.
have to be serious, you know?
Yes, so good. Right. So first, so let's kind of do a little outline for people. Like just these are the takeaways, if you may. So I love what you just said, starting with I start with yourself because it all starts with our own internal experience. There's no relationship if you're not here, right? Potentially. um, so things for yourself. How do you slow down? How do you have your own pleasure? How do you have your own joy, right? How do you show up to your own body? Are you attuned to your own physical, personal needs? Like all that kind of stuff first. Then some of the things that we already mentioned in throughout this conversation today, the whole exploration with like the hands, pushing the hands together in the space in between, just to see how much space is comfortable, the back rubbing, the touching with the shoulder or the leg when people are talking, the eye gaze. So there's a few things that we already mentioned that would help um, get a sense of what's in the space between us, and how do we give it words, and how do we feel it, how do we share it with each other. So those were all beautiful. And then you just added this last element of playing together and being playful and enjoying life together. And what might that look like? Exploring that. You get as crazy as you like or as simple as you like, just going for a walk after dinner every day or whatever, however often you like. But just activities that put you in each other's proximity, right? That don't have devices or this other things that come in and disrupt that being together in the moment.
Simple things like learning something together.
Mm,
You're doing something together. There's a sensory experience of it. Right?
yes.
You're in the same space together. I mean,
Yes.
we can think of it like, oh, we just went out and learned how to, like, I don't know, make candles or something. But
Mhm.
there's a commonality, like you just did something together.
Mhm.
So it doesn't have to be so like serious, like sit down and talk about it and like
Right.
tell me everything.
Right.
That's helpful too, right? But even like just the experience of doing something together. And we minimize that, I think. You know,
Totally.
we go off like, I'm going to take this class or I'm going to do this thing, right? But doing it together is like you're sensing the same thing together.
Mm,
You
so
talk about
true.
it, right? It was like that was so fun, or we took this art class, or but all those different senses are kind of firing in that moment, in these moments, right?
Yes, and I love that last bit of the language there because Joe Dispenza, I think, says this: "Fired together, wired together." Right. So the same thing with a couple, like the mirror neurons, like you're feeling each other in those experiences, and you're wiring together. You're building that connection. You're repatterning things. There's so much happening. You're not just making candles. You're doing so much more than that. Ah, so beautiful. I could totally sense that you're a wonderful therapist, not
Thank
just from your words, but just your energy and just the quality and warmth that you bring into the conversation. So you're beautiful. Thank you.
you for having me. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else that you would like to throw out there for people who are experimenting with these ideas, who are not in therapy, who are not therapists, who are just listening to this and like that you might just gonna, that you might want to offer to them as the last takeaway?
It doesn't have to be that hard, right? It doesn't have to be that hard or complicated. There's we hear so much and we get inundated with so much information, and even this, right, can like maybe like you said, clinical, be like, oh, it doesn't really have to be.
Right.
And how do you feel into your partner? How do I feel into myself? And then I feel into my partner.
Mm,
And it does, I just want to reassure people, it's not that threatening either. Like it's not a threatening thing. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to do this thing. We
mm.
do a lot of it like automatically anyway, but
Beautiful. Yes.
when we can slow down and pay attention to it, then we can leverage it more.
Lovely. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I would hang my hat on that.
Okay.
Yes, right. Because like I love that as a sentiment, as the last takeaway. We make it too complicated. It doesn't have to be a list of things, too structured, too set up, too all of these things to remember, right? If you just pay attention, you're automatically negotiating the space between you. You're automatically sensing what your partner's doing. So can you tune into that and leverage it? I love that word for this as well, right? Can you capitalize on that? Sense, play with it more. You could use what you're already doing and make it bigger. Like use it better. You
Yeah.
could just build from what you already have.
There's like some fundamentals of human beings, right?
Mm.
How can you help your partner feel the way you want to feel?
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yes.
That's what it's all about.
Hmm.
You know,
So good.
here's what I want to feel. I'm going to help you feel that way.
Yes, so good. Yes. I'm going to offer one last thing to add to what you just said. That's so beautiful. And I'm going to use the word delight,
Mhm.
right? How about we make it our business to delight our partner?
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
think a lot of times we just so hang up on how can my partner delight me? Does my partner take care of my needs? What's my partner doing for me? What do I get? Me, 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 as opposed to what can I offer to my partner? right? How do I make my partner feel good? I love what you just said. The way I want to feel loved and cherished and honored and respected and treasured and whatever, other things, connected. How can I help my partner feel those things too? If I want my partner to feel respected, I'm not going to go beat on him. I'm not going to be critical, demanding, controlling, whatever people do, all the things that we might do when we're trying to get our needs met. How do I go about that the opposite way? So how do I want to feel? How can I go about it so that my partner could feel that way too? So it's not we don't do the opposite. We shoot ourselves on the foot.
Yeah.
So how do we go about delighting our partner? So good.
Yeah, I like that word. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom and your knowledge and your skill and your gift with us today. I really appreciate you.
You're very welcome. And I think anybody wants to talk to me and you have any information, I'd be very happy to have a conversation. And yeah.
Yes, all your information, your social media, your website, everything's going to be in the show notes. So if anybody needs to reach out to you, connect with you, and just work with this beautifulness that you are, people are welcome to that. So again, thank you so much for being here with me, and to the audience, until the next one. Bye.